You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Grant McAuley with you as we wrap up the weekend. And the Braves wrapped up their series with the Milwaukee Brewers with a comeback win on Sunday, giving them a series victory, which means perhaps any and all panic that was happening following the All-Star break with a couple of series losses back-to-back for the first time this year. Well, maybe we can put some of that aside as the Braves were able to do what they needed to. They got the starting pitching, the bullpen work, and the big hit. It belonged to Ozzie Albies, a go-ahead 3-run homer that put the Braves on top to stay by a 4-2 score, as Atlanta was able to do just a little bit of everything to get out of Milwaukee with the series victory. And the road trip will continue in Boston, of course. We'll get you set up for that on this edition of the Braves POSTCAST. As always, before I get started, I want to remind you to subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta, where right here on YouTube, where you can hit the bell to get notified every time we drop a new episode. You can also go ahead, leave a like. That would be helpful. Leave some comments. We always appreciate those. Like to keep the discourse going here on the channel, and make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. So that should pretty much cover all the things you need to do. If you haven't already, if you're new to the show, well, welcome aboard. What we do here is talk about each and every Braves game that we can possibly get to, and we wanted to get to this one as game number 98 was, I don't feel like a critical win for the Braves, but you wanted to put this whole series loss thing behind you, and the Braves did just that. Let's jump inside the line score and the box score for this one. The finale of the three-game set against the Milwaukee Brewers. Braves back to 30 games over 500. They are 64-34, 4 runs, 7 hits, no errors, 3 men left aboard for the Braves. Brewers now 55-45, 2 runs, 7 hits, no errors, and 6 men left on base for them. Daysbel Hernandez, he's going to be a story for this episode of the postcast. He's 1-0, made his major league debut, looked very good in doing so, and was able to pick up a win in relief as Ozzie Albies put the Braves on top to stay in the 8th inning with that 3-run blast. Elvis Peguero served that one up. He's 1-3, taking the loss for the Brewers out of the bullpen. And Raisel Iglesias, he might have looked as good as any time I've seen him this season. 18th save of the year. He struck out the side to close it out. Game lasted 2 hours, 35 minutes, 38,605 on hand at American Family Field to see it. And the Braves, I mean, this is something that they have done so well, using the long ball, getting a good start from Bryce Elder, which you very much needed to see as we talk about stories for this particular game, for this particular series, and really coming out of the second half, out of the All-Star break where Elder was roughed up against the Tampa Bay Rays, and he came right back out and got roughed up again the next time. He needed a good start, and he got a pretty good one, I think, a bounce-back effort in this particular outing. 6 innings of 2-run ball, 4 hits, couple of walks, couple of strikeouts, and 1 home run served up. He threw 105 pitches, 66 of those for strikes, and I felt this looked just a lot more like the Bryce Elder that we've become accustomed to. A guy that's going to work the strike zone around the area, not necessarily pound in the middle of the zone, which is where I think he kind of got hurt in his last couple of outings. And, all misgivings about some of the calls behind home plate that we saw the last couple of days. Overall, I think you had to like what you saw from Bryce Elder. And again, while the expectation might have been set a little bit higher because he was an all-star in the first half and one of the great stories for this Braves club, nobody's asking Bryce Elder to go out and lead the rotation. You just need him to come in and make his contribution every 5th day. And he's definitely a viable middle to back end starter at the worst. And that was just not apparent in the last couple of outings. But he was able to, as many players have to do throughout the course of the season, make a little adjustment, get back on track because you're going to go through some rough ones. And unfortunately for Elder, it was just back-to-back. 7 runs allowed in each of those starts. This one, 6 innings of 2-run ball. As I said on Twitter, where you can follow me, at Grant McAuley, if you don't already. This I think you'll take every time. 6 innings of 2-run ball. The Braves bullpen was able to do what it needed to do to close things out and pitch scoreless ball for the final 3 innings. But I want to talk a little bit about what was the overall starting pitching matchup because we saw a few former Braves wearing Brewers colors. Of course, William Contreras traded over in the Sean Murphy deal, the 3-way trade with the A's and with the Brewers involved in that. We got a good look at him. And we also saw Julio Teheran on the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers. A little bit strange to see that. I mean, Bryce Wilson is one thing. Julio Teheran spent a little bit more time in a Braves uniform. 6 opening day starts for Atlanta, 2-time All-Star, and a guy who was just kind of a staple of some Braves clubs from the 2013 season all the way up through 2019. And since leaving Atlanta, has had a hard time staying healthy, has had a hard time finding some regular work. But he joined the Brewers staff about 5-6 weeks ago, and he's looked pretty good, honestly. And he looked very good against the Atlanta Braves. 6 innings of 1-run ball, 3 hits, no walks, and 5 strikeouts for Julio. Only mistake he made was a Travis d'Arnaud home run, and that gave the Braves what was, until late in the game, the only run that they were able to push across in the first 6 innings, of course. And then you were looking at a Milwaukee bullpen that was pushing nearly 30 innings. I believe it was 27 and change of scoreless baseball. So you weren't necessarily looking at the late innings and thinking, all right, well, this is where the Braves offense is going to break out, because even not facing some of the Brewers' top relievers in the opener of the series, just about everybody that comes out of that bullpen is able to, give you some pretty good relief. And that, I think, is one of the things that has the Brewers where they are right now as the first place club in the National League Central, because it's not the lineup. The lineup has been timely hits, and they certainly did that to the Braves in winning Saturday's game, but it has not been slugging teams into submission the way that the Braves have. So you were kind of curious, is the strength of the Brewers, their bullpen, going to be able to hold down the strength of the Braves? And the late inning runs, and particularly the home run ball, was something Atlanta was very happy to find. And it was Ozzie Albies who delivered. The big hit came in the 8th inning. It was a go-ahead 3-run homer. For Ozzie, it's been kind of tough sledding over the past 2-3 weeks. Moving to the 2 spot initially, he had an awful lot of success. The Braves were rolling their way through the month of June into July. Ozzie, an all-star, and justifiably so. He's on pace for a career high in home runs. This one, though, one of the biggest ones he has hit, certainly in the second half and of late. And he's had a few big home runs this year. This go-ahead 3-run blast, it came off Elvis Peguero. It took a 2-1 game, and it turned it into a 4-2 Braves lead. And all of a sudden, you had things right where you wanted them if you could mix and match the bullpen the way that Atlanta is kind of having to do right now. Who could you call on to keep things where they needed to keep it? Well, as it turned out, Daysbel Hernandez was the man who came on after Bryce Elder. And let's go ahead and talk about his major league debut. He was called up just a little bit before the game on Sunday in the morning, as we saw Alan Winans came up and made the spot start in game 2 of the series. He was optioned back down to AAA Gwinnett. Then you had Daysbel Hernandez come up to try to just help out the bullpen. And this is a kid that's earned a promotion. Opposing hitters in the minor leagues against Daysbel Hernandez thus far this year, and this is from Rome, Mississippi, and Gwinnett, batting 122 against him. Once he went to Mississippi, he really flipped the switch. That got him to Gwinnett, where he had struck out 7 of the 9 batters he faced in AAA, and that earned him a very quick call up to Atlanta. And you can see there's a lot to like here. Big fastball, 96-97, really great slider as well. And this is somebody that, if you follow the Braves prospects as closely as a lot of the fans do out there, I know a lot of you do, you would know that this was somebody that, injury had kind of put him kind of maybe on the back burner a little bit, but Daysbel Hernandez was an arm that has been talked about for a number of years, and he finally has been able to get healthy and put everything together this year. And the Braves right now, I think, quite frankly, they need the help that they can get inside the organization, because, as we know, in the background of all of this, the trade deadline's looming. So some help from outside of the organization may be showing up, but you got to get there. And Daysbel Hernandez certainly helped him get there. He struck out the side in the 7th inning. 1 hit was allowed, and that in and of itself is news, because Hernandez had not been allowing very many hits. But all jokes aside, this was exactly the kind of call-up that the Braves needed. Ben Heller got into a little bit of 8th inning trouble, was able to escape that jam. And as I mentioned earlier, Bryce Elder came out, and, he was just pumping fastballs in the mid to high 90s in the inning, and striking out the side to close it out really gave the Brewers absolutely no hope. And that, I think, is good to see as well, because, you've looked at a few of these outings for Rysel where it's some batted ball luck in some cases. A couple of runners get on base. Maybe there's a walk in there. And all of a sudden, a rally starts where really you don't feel like he's necessarily getting hit that hard, but he hasn't been able to miss bats at the way that he wants to, and get the big, or get the very quick and easy innings that he would like to have, most certainly, to close out some of these games. But good to see on Sunday, this was the best version of Raisel Iglesias that you could ask for. As you look at what the Braves offense did in this one, how about Travis d'Arnaud? 9th home run of the year. That was a solo shot off Julio Teheran that put the Braves on the board early. Bryce Elder did allow just the 2 runs after that across his 6 innings, and the big hit was the 23rd homer of the year for Ozzie Albies, and that 3-run homer put the Braves on top and helped them win this series, which, as I mentioned, that's something that we needed to see just to start getting things moving back in the right direction. But in the background of everything that has been maybe not going right for the Braves here early, couple of tough losses, couple of series defeats. Well, the Marlins finally won a game in the second half on Sunday as they walked off against the Colorado Rockies. That broke an 8-game losing streak for Miami, so they hit the skids. The Phillies, meanwhile, bounced back to beat the Guardians, but both teams lost on Saturday, which means with the Braves win, They're still 11 and a half games out in the National League East. So as you look at the bigger picture in the National League East standings, the Braves are doing exactly what they need to do. And if they're able to start to get healthy, and we feel like maybe things are starting to trend in that direction, and with the trade deadline looming, maybe this is the time where the Braves are finally able to put it all together, which should be pretty scary because Atlanta's won 30 of its last 40 games. You play 750 baseball for a month and a half, it's going to be pretty hard to catch you, and we'll see what the Braves are able to do at the deadline. But a couple of injury notes on Sunday's docket. A.J. Minter is going to join AAA Gwinnett for a rehab assignment. That'll start on Tuesday. He'll join the club down in Jacksonville. Then on Wednesday, Max Fried makes what we presume will be his final rehab start on this current stint with AAA. He's going to start for the Stripers down in Jacksonville on Wednesday and probably looking to go 75 to 85 pitches, kind of get himself stretched out a little bit more. It was 65 pitches last time out, just not as sharp, I think, as he wanted to be. Didn't get the results that he would like to have. And when you're sitting on an 11.5 game lead, there's really no reason to push Max Fried back to the big leagues when you can give him one more start to kind of, knock the rust off a bit. Because keep in mind, he's been down for over 2 months now, and the Braves, they've gotten just 5 starts out of Fried, and they want him to be making some big starts for them down the stretch. And, of course, in October, they want to get him healthy and give him the opportunity to come back in and not feel like he was rushed. There's no reason to rush him after a 60-day injured list stint. Also looking at some interesting Braves news as far as pitching is concerned, Atlanta claimed Yanni Chirinos, I should say, from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's been kind of a spot starter reliever. He's also worked as kind of the bulk reliever after Tampa Bay has used the opener throughout the course of the season. He's been hit hard lately, but an interesting arm, somebody who's had to overcome some injuries the last couple of years. Rays not able to find a spot for him or hold on to him. Braves saw him right before the All-Star break. He tossed a scoreless inning against him. Maybe that was a bit of an audition, but he is going to jump into the rotation, it appears, because the Braves have once again optioned Michael Soroka to AAA Gwinnett. He's going to go down there, continue to get regular work. And also Seth Elledge was DFA'd, which opened up a spot on the 40-man roster to bring in Chirinos. So I don't know that expectations are all that high as far as Chirinos is concerned. Clearly, there are some other deals and moves and things that could happen over the course of the next 7 or 8 days leading up to the trade deadline to see what this rotation could look like. And the return of Max Fried, there is no bigger domino than that when you start looking at everything for the Atlanta Braves, that it could be ahead in the next week and a half. So that's a pretty good look at what has happened behind the scenes on Sunday. A lot of roster moves. Of course, the Daysbel Hernandez one, well, that played out pretty well in his major league debut as he picked up a win. One other note offensively, I can't get out of the show without mentioning that Ronald Acuna Jr. was doing Ronald Acuna Jr. things. 2 for 4, scored a run, stole his 46th base of the year. That, of course, is the most in Major League Baseball. It's got him on pace for 76 steals, which will be a modern record for the Atlanta Brave Club. And that was set back in 1991 by Otis Nixon. He stole 72 bases. That could be just another feather in the cap of Ronald Acuna Jr. Braves have 64 games left, and he needs 26 more steals to tie Otis Nixon's record for the Atlanta era and the modern era in the franchise. And Ronald Acuna Jr., the way he's been running this year, you really can't rule that out. I don't know that I came into the season expecting, more than the 40-40 tracker, which I've been keeping on Twitter. Now we've got Ronald Acuna Jr. making a run at stealing 70-plus bases, and that is just pretty incredible. But that pretty much covers everything that was going on up in Milwaukee as the Braves won the series finale. And I want to get you set up for the next series and the next stop on this road trip, which, of course, will be in Boston. Before I do that, though, I want to let you know about one of our great sponsors. This episode of the Braves Postcast is brought to you by eBay Motors, who reminds you a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit, and it's the same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head over to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and, of course, exclusions apply. The Braves will be sending Charlie Morton to the mound on Tuesday after an off day on Monday, which I'm sure they will enjoy as they roll into Boston to match up with the Red Sox team that may be at the bottom of the American League East, but this is a team that is well over 500 and has to be still kind of looking at the wild card picture and thinking, can we get hot over the next week or so and be in a position to maybe do some buying? This is one of the mini clubs I feel like kind of has to decide what road they want to walk in 2023 and perhaps what road they want to walk beyond. But all of those are bigger things and bigger decisions than will be happening inside of this 2-game series, which begins on Tuesday night at Fenway Park. Morton on the year is 10-7, a 3.36 ERA. Not the start he wanted last time out, but I think Charlie's been pitching pretty well of late and the Braves will be looking for him to go out and deliver a quality start. Atlanta has hit pretty well at Fenway Park overall. It's a good place for sluggers, and the Braves are going to be bringing a whole bunch of sluggers to town to match up with the Red Sox, who have yet to name a starter for Tuesday's series opener. That'll be happening with the first pitch of 7:10 p.m. Eastern time at Fenway Park as the Braves and Red Sox will meet in the second stop of this two-city road trip for the Atlanta club. And that'll wrap things up here on the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. We appreciate you going ahead hitting that bell to get notified every time we drop a new episode. Leave a like and make sure you tell a friend. Leave a comment. Keep all of those going. There's a lot to talk about right now and the excitement leading up to the deadline and the Braves getting into the second half, getting Max Fried back. All of those are things and stories that we're eagerly monitoring as the month of August is barreling down upon us. Of course, Sunday was the Hall of Fame induction, so congratulations to former Braves slugger Fred McGriff, a well-deserved honor for him as he was enshrined in Cooperstown on Sunday. So lots of things happening across the world of baseball, and we appreciate you making Locked On Sports Atlanta a place for you to stop by and keep up with the Atlanta Braves. Also, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts. Once again, it was the Braves with a 4-2 comeback win over the Milwaukee Brewers on Sunday. That wraps up the series with a victory and makes it a series victory and on to Boston for the Atlanta Braves. We'll be back this week to catch you up on all the things happening as the Braves continue their road trip. Once again, the Braves a 4-2 win. I'm Grant McAuley. We'll catch you next time on the Locked On Sports Atlanta Braves Postcast. And until then, so long, everyone.